Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. You know, here at Starbase 80, we've always loved Star Trek. That's like one of the reasons why we exist is our love for Star Trek. And there are times when a Star Trek show will come out and I will go, oh, all right. No, it's all right. It's better than nothing. And I did that with the original Picard, the first season. And we're now at the third season. And it debuted last night at midnight in, everybody in North America, as far as I know. I think it's the US and Canada. My socks are still knocked off. I am still sockless at how, oh my gosh, what a great show it was. We need to get this started. Hopefully I'm hitting the right video. I am not. That's the wrong video. All right. Let's get this thing started. I'm so bad at this. Starbase 80! Picarder.
Good evening, friends.
All righty. Let's get my co-host in here. Ladies and gentlemen, the great, the wonderful, the all-powerful Joe Townsend.
With all powerful.
I can't believe I hit that video again. Okay.
Well, John, I have a similar reaction. You were going to get into it. I'm not sockless like you only because I wear compression socks. They don't come off as easily. But other than that, I'm right there with you, my friend.
I mean, it was good, right? That was a good episode.
How can you describe it any other way? It was great. We were anticipating something really special. I think we definitely got it, and we're off to a fantastic start for season 3.
We are lucky. We've got Craig Robinson with us, who is reminding me that I still don't know what I'm doing. That's always been my catchphrase for this show. I have no idea what I'm doing. So Craig's not being mean. He's being a fan. And yes, Craig, we appreciate you. We always appreciate you. Mr. Townsend, good gracious. Let's talk about this show. You showed me your notepad. You've got a notepad. I've got a notepad.
Right there.
Oh,
we're ready.
And here's something I know about you. I know that you are a man who does not rely on the wacky weed, the wacky tobacco, if you will, to get to sleep the way I do. So I'm betting your notes are 20 times more readable and more intelligent than Stoned Johnny. Stone Johnny was the one who took these last night.
Well, these are the chicken scratches of, the block lettering of a years-long cartoonist. So yes, they do tend to be more legible than the average bear, so to speak.
Can I just say though, that's how I look at that. Big block lettering. A lot of times in all caps. Yeah. It's I blame the great letterers of our comic book youth. The Artie Simex, the Marie Severins, Glynis Wine, the great letterers of our youth. Let me ask you right out the bat.
Yes.
Is this first episode making you hungry for more?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, not to draw comparisons, but looking back to the season premiere for season 2, fairly chaotic, so ingrained in shoving a mystery box right in our face. Not that we don't have one now, but this was very coherent, cohesive, great characterization, great dialogue,
good points.
I think it definitely whets the appetite for what's to come.
Let's talk about the teaser, the very first scene. I made a note. I'm going to correct it later. Feel free to correct it at any point, Joe, or anybody who's watching with us. Feel free to correct me on this. We start in space. It's inside a spaceship. which we will find out is hang on, I know
The Helios?
The Helios 7.
Yes.
And the song I Don't Want to Set the World on Fire. I told myself I was going to look this up, but I believe that's by the Ink Spots.
I believe you're right.
Fantastic song. I love this song. But as soon as it happened, I went, okay, is this officially a big ass cliche? You show technology or space or something futuristic, something maybe even a little dystopian, like this ship that we're seeing, the Helios 7, is a little beat up, which I thought was kind of cool. And then the like super nostalgic 1940s era, record that's playing. And I'm just sitting there going, have we already made this one of the biggest cliches possible? The nostalgic music that goes with the futuristic visuals. Did that pop for you? Did you have a reaction to that as well?
Well, I did, but I did it for a reason that you might not have anticipated. When I went to go watch this, I, of course, go on to Paramount Plus, and there's the great big splash for Picard, watch now. So I just hit watch now. Well, it takes me to the first episode of season 1, which started the same way with Blue Skies and Enterprise D. I thought, oh, well, this isn't right. So then I backed out of it, went to the right episode, and it starts the same way. I said, did I make the mistake again? No, but so yes, of course, even if I had made that mistake, I'm sure I would have had reminiscence of the beginning of the series in general. So.
Now I hope I remember. If I don't remember, I hope you can remember to remind me that there is an answer to this question later in the episode. Which is one of the reasons why I started going down the road of, maybe I'm going to complain. And then I turned right around and went, no, man, these people know what they're doing. My Star Trek people know what they're doing. Okay. Update for Craig. Craig Robinson is, of course, in the UK. He can't stick around because they haven't gotten it yet. They will get it next Friday. So Craig, God bless you. Join us. We're doing our shows on Thursdays. So I guess we'll see you probably 2 Fridays from now, but we don't want to ruin it for you. So if you've got to bow out, my friend, thank you for joining us.
And we'll be spoiling, unfortunately. We have to.
Yeah, I mean, it's so funny. I never remember to say this. This show is all spoilers. It's all spoilers. I'm going to make it even more exciting because Joe and I are now going to introduce you to our very good friend and frequent guest, and we hope he comes every time he's got the opportunity, just as he does today. It's on day 1, and here he is, Craig Lubin.
Hey, folks.
Hey, Craig.
Sorry, I apologize for being late. Work literally went up 5 minutes over.
It always does.
I'm glad the other Craig left too, because we have spoilers here. I'm sorry. At the end, everybody dies horribly.
Oh, that is not true. That's not true. Don't let him. Don't.
The other 9 episodes being the funeral scenes and so.
It was all a big scam.
Let me tell you, our friend Justin, who joined us on the preview, has the hookup. Like he used to work for Paramount, and he knows a lot of people in the business. I don't know exactly what his hookup is, but he was explaining to me last night as I was beginning to watch episode 1. He was like, "Yeah, I'm finishing episode 6, and it's amazing." And I was like, "Do not tell me." And he didn't. He's not a spoiler guy. He didn't tell me anything. But there are a bunch of people who have seen advanced episodes of this series, and that's cool.
There are a number that have seen that were given the first 6, and then others, and some of those have also just were given the remaining 4. And that's another reason I'm not even, like I said yesterday, not cautiously, but very optimistic, because I'm just getting great reports from people that have been very critical of past efforts.
True. Yeah, that's I'm hearing from those people as well. I'm hearing from people who are like, I didn't really like season 2. Now, I personally liked season 2.
Mhm.
So when people say this is better than season 2, that's exciting. That to me is sizzle that goes with the steak.
Well, and and the one thing I was going to mention right up front, and I
Yeah.
want to hear, of course, what was going through Craig's mind
Yeah.
is, you know what, we've debated this in other shows with other series. There are different varieties of Trek these days, different flavors, as it were. But you know what, I gotta say, as John, you and I were talking about yesterday, we come from the beginning era.
Right.
We have a definition of Star Trek in our minds that really resonates with us, maybe probably more than some of the more recent efforts. And I
TOS.
tell you,
for
I
us,
would,
the
yeah,
original series.
TOS, TNG, and so forth. And
Yeah.
boy, I mean, as we'll get into, so many aspects of just this first episode of season 3 of Picard takes us right back to that era.
Yeah.
So how can we not love it?
I got to agree with you, Joe. What I really impressed me, how it really tried to invoke the whole, not just the next generation STNG era. Oh, I think it did invoke all those, but it really hit STNG. It also invoked a lot of the movies of STNG, like Generation. There were callbacks to Generations and the First Contact as well.
Yes.
And I thought that was well done.
I love that. I mean, here's the thing. I feel, I know you're going to hear from other fans the opposite of this, but I honestly feel that Alex Kurtzman loves Star Trek. He creates new Star Trek in the way that Gene Roddenberry created new Star Trek, breaking molds and breaking barriers and doing different things from what other TV shows do. This show is an executive produced product of Kurtzman, so he sort of oversees the overseers. He kind of, it kind of works on people.
He was a line producer. I didn't realize this recently on the 2009 J.J. Abrams Star Trek, which I know folks said I want to have that conversation, but whatever you think about that, that was a different interpretation of Star Trek.
Yes, and very modern.
Yeah,
very like using the technology we have now, using how we see technology now. Wow, that makes a ton of sense. I didn't know that. And Terry Matalas. I can never stop saying his name. I honestly feel this guy came in after season 1 of Picard and just said, well, what you want is this. Like, he took the same show and just changed the angle on it just a little bit. And, let's sprinkle in a lot of things that the fans want to see. And
well, I mean, I definitely think the heroes of this season 3 are going to be Terry Matalas and, I hope I get the name right, Steve Barton, who is doing the music.
Oh,
because boy, did he integrate those familiar themes and
oh wow, right. You notice
Yeah.
there were riffs from STNG, First Contact, and I also caught Generations as well.
Oh yes, all of it.
Yeah, it was cool.
Oh man, that is great. That I did remember. I did hear like the Alexander Courage theme come in.
Yes.
And that, of course, is from the motion picture, Star Trek the motion picture in the late 70s. But yeah, that's an excellent point, Joe, because the music was great. The music was really particularly great.
And with bits and pieces, both visually and musically, of Star Trek 3, of course.
Yeah. That's right. Yeah.
I mean, let's face it. People who've joined the show later, like a lot of our friends, we always mention Flobo Boyce, who's our very dear friend, and but he wasn't there for TNG.
Yeah,
he kind of knew TOS a little. His mom liked TNG, which is so hilarious.
What did you folks feel of the initial scroll through at the very first scene? You're on Beverly's before the credit roll. And it kind of panned from room to room and over her desks. And you saw, and it was, usually I'm not a fan of callbacks like this, but this was done in a clever way. And I'm going, my God, how many episodes from STNG are here too? It's quite a bit. Finally ending with, I think it's, I forgot the name of her husband, Crusher. But
Jack Crusher's suitcase.
Yeah, Patrick's suitcase, and it kind of ends there, and that's the whole pan through. But that they had the crystalline entity was there, and then Picard
right over my head. Really,
Picard's longs are up, and there were references from all these different episodes. It was just all this,
Well, and we heard the part of his captain's log from Q-Who.
Yes, that's right. Yeah,
that's right.
And I'm sure that's not going to be just a throwaway fan service. I think that's going to be relevant in a future episode.
I agree. I think we find out as we get a little more into the intrigue and the sort of intrigue kind of, sneaky goings on. We're getting a lot of references to very specific moments. Let's jump in, because I have to say, I loved that pan, Craig. I loved it. I kept saying, do I have to slow this down and go look up what this is and go look up what that is? No, thank goodness I have you two. You men alongside me. I like to call this first section Bev Gets Boarded.
Oh, he perf.
There is a moment, and I'm going to say it over and over again. I am always jarred when they show us Gates McFadden's the work she's had done. It's always jarring. And yet I'm a guy, I used to have a mole, right here, and it was as big as a dime. It was gigantic. And I remember I used to make fun of people getting plastic surgery or getting enhanced, breast enhancements. I used to make fun of people doing that. And once I got that mole removed, and then I could pull my hair out of my face. And every day I could go, people aren't looking at the mole. They're looking at my face. From that point on, I went, whatever you need to get to feel good, to get out of bed in the morning, to wash your face and go out and seize the day. If you need to get a facelift, if you need to get a brow lift or Botox or any of these things, go ahead and do it. It's your face. It's your body. Go ahead and do it. However, I'm still on the, okay, no, that's what Gates looks like now. Sure, yeah. So I'm back and forth. I'm like, no, you should be able to do anything you want. Oh God, look at Gates McFadden. Okay.
Well, I think part of that too, John, and I was going to get into this generally. It's my only complaint about this and what will probably be the remaining episodes. And it's the interior visual aesthetic. Why? Who didn't pay the electric bill? Why don't they like those sets? I mean, and that could have something to do with how Gates is looking. I mean, maybe in a better lit room.
I noticed that too, Joe, because and I know you guys may not be a fan of I used to like this Top Gun movies, but what I really and forget about what you feel about them politically, whatever. The aesthetic there was they hated air conditioning and lighting in a naval vessel, so you were dark and you were sweating all the time. And this reminded me of that too. Except they looked like they had the AC on, but it was the same sort of dark, sort of 80s lighting. I thought sometimes, I was like, man.
Well, I mean, in the little secondhand spaceship she has, I can understand that aesthetic, but I really would like to get a return to well-lit starships on the inside. I mean, because the exteriors are so beautiful.
Yes.
And they look great. Yeah. It's, and then you go inside and it's like, hello.
When you compare it to, New Voyages, right? Strange New Worlds. I'm sorry, my God.
Right.
Strange New Worlds, which is, it's nice and bright. Because I like watching the world's most awkward, captain's dinner ever. By the way, I'm going to throw my hat in right now and say that was got to be the most awkward one I've ever seen in Harry's captain's dinners. But if it had been lit a little better, it would have been so foreboding. I thought the guy was going to turn around and bring his cat out and start the captain stroking it. Well, gentlemen.
Well, like I said, more to come on Captain Liam Shaw, but I think he's going to be a new classic character, meaning long-standing and very popular. And I definitely see a character arc for him this season.
Oh, I hope so.
I hope so too, because I got shades of a less polite Jellicoe from him.
Yes. Yeah, like what if Jellicoe was proud?
Yes.
Well, or more humorous Jellicoe also, I think.
Yes. Oh,
He
yeah.
has a sense of humor. It's snide and sarcastic, but it's there.
Yeah.
And I can see that actually playing, I think we might be endeared to this character later. Not so much now.
That would make me happy. I don't know if you guys were a Stranger Things fans at all.
Oh, yeah. Yes,
But
yes.
Season 1 of Stranger Things, the character Steve is a bully. He is the biggest dickhead. He is just such a jerk. And he is so important to all the other seasons. One of my favorite characters on the show. If they could do that with Liam Shaw, that would be amazing.
I think we look forward to that. I'm pretty certain of it. And let me mention at this point, if I may, two things I thought were going to be that caused me to partially roll my eyes, and then I immediately took it back because it wasn't what it would seem to be in the first few seconds.
Yeah, I know where you're going with
Number
this.
one, the recurrence of Rafi's addiction. I'm thinking, oh no, not this again.
Exactly. I was like, I wasn't going to stop watching. I was like, really? But then when it was a bait and switch. Okay, well done. Well played.
Yes, very much. And the other thing was the mystery of the Red Lady. Oh God, is this the Red Angel all over again from Discovery?
Oh my gosh, I didn't even make those connections because that would have driven me away from the TV. Like, are we going?
But
with
again,
the Red Angel?
Within a few minutes screen time, we say, okay, good little mystery, good resolution, and very important part of the episode, obviously.
Absolutely. And they did that in this episode. They set up some mysteries, a few of them, and solved a few of them right away and kept some of them going. And that's just good storytelling. That's good storytelling.
And that weapon was interesting. I'm sorry, I'm going to nerd out too, because it looked like it was a portal, but it might have been a portal through time, because it looked like it dropped the whole Federation facility, right, into the ground, and then maybe 10 seconds later dropped it on another populated part of the city, District 7.
Right.
And I was like, that's an interesting weapon, because it wasn't like immediate, it was just
and potentially devastating too. And it really reminded me quite a bit of what happened in Star Trek 2009.
Yes.
Where basically the Vulcan got sucked into the black hole. It's kind of, to me, it's very reminiscent of that approach.
And they had people screaming and stuff. That was I know I'm jumping around too much, but that was a pretty intense scene. But
hey,
to get back to Rafi at the beginning, I thought that was really interesting. I like the fact that I forgot the name of the character's ship, but she's got the ship apparently running around.
La Serena.
La Serena, and she's doing freelance work for who we think is Starfleet intelligence. I'm wondering about that now.
Well, isn't it? I mean, to me, it seems obvious who she's talking to.
I have a guess as to whom she's talking to as well. Shall we do it now? Let me just set it up. Let me just set it up. So we're referring to that voice that she's talking to, and the computer is doing the voice. So clearly someone is typing it, and the computer is adding a voice to it. It's not the actual voice of her handler, I believe is the phrase she uses. Okay, on 3. 1, 2, 3.
Worf.
Were you with us on that one, Craig?
Yeah, I was thinking it was Worf or an unknown character. By the way, I was someone we just don't know about, right? But yeah,
the only I think the one thing that supports that possibility, Craig, it might be obviously the use of the word warrior is meant to steer us in that direction as far as Worf. Could be another Klingon, a red herring. Who knows? Because it could either go with or go against the fact that Worf is supposedly now embracing pacifism, which of course is yet to be seen. But it sure seems likely that's Worf.
Yeah, if a Klingon were a pacifist, would he go into espionage? Which seems very un-Klingon. But he is Starfleet as well.
Well, remember, there were many, DS9 Worf episodes where, they had a Klingon lawyer. And they started talking about, Klingons who were warriors in other professions. The janitor, he'll clean he'll clean, but damn it, don't mess with this clean material like a warrior.
He will attack those stains.
He'll scrub the hell out of that toilet.
He will show no mercy to those stains in the toilet. Let's go in order just a little bit.
Sure.
Not that it's the most important thing in the world, but just so we're covering some levels here. A lot happens with Beverly in the very first scene, and there is the locking the guy out, and I had no idea what she was doing. I was afraid she was locking him to like be attacked by these guys who were boarding the Elio 7. We find out what she did later. And I also wanted to, did you know this? Did you guys already know this? That if somebody's ship is boarding a vessel that's warp capable, and then the warp capable vessel hits warp, that the ship boarding it just gets left behind. Has that ever happened before?
That's an interesting point, because you see it floating off, because they imply that there's a warp bubble around the ship.
Exactly.
And it takes everything with it. But maybe this ship's warp bubble is literally just skin deep.
Just right along the hull.
You're right. Possibly.
And wasn't there mention that these various ships that are attacking have different warp capabilities and signatures and so forth? So maybe the rules don't apply every now and then in these scenarios.
That's true. Although I have to say, I was satisfied when I questioned it myself. I did have a voice in my head, very much like yours, Craig. You did excellent work. Thank you. Being the voice in my head who said, well, it is a warp bubble. So it is from inside the vehicle expanded out,
right,
that the warp core, creates.
And the reason I'm going with that too, and how many times have you heard expand the warp bubble to encompass blah blah, or expand the shields, right? And various Star Trek technobabble over the years.
Good.
And so perhaps that didn't really bother me that much. I was surprised on how, they for the nostalgia sweep they did at the beginning, I surprisingly, I thought that was done well. I didn't see anything here that was glaring. It was a good solid start to begin with. I like the characters introduced. Like Joe pointed out, the lighting drove me nuts, but I turned that part of my brain off. I said, okay, maybe that Top Gun producer is, cinematographer is really popular in Hollywood right now. And
well, everybody loves to make fun of the Abrams Star Treks by being all lens flares. And that's true. Like, these aesthetics do sort of come along. Hey, let's not forget, like in the 80s, a lot of things were blue and dark.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Like when we got into the early 90s, it didn't change a lot. A lot of like bluish lights. I just always think of X-Files.
The new Top Gun movie was shot with normal lighting stuff, except the scene on the carrier. They did the same thing, and it was made me laugh. Everyone's
unfortunately, Craig is frozen.
That's okay. Oh, there he is.
Oh, that was interesting. That was
that was
that was a little warp effect of its own, I think.
I love it. I like,
John, you mentioned fan service at the beginning, which I know we're going to get a lot of it.
I'm sure.
I think it's going to be in a good way, not so much in our face, possibly as season 2.
Yeah.
But I think we have to mention just briefly at the very beginning, after the teaser, when we first see Picard, and thankfully our fan favorite Laris, I didn't think we were going to get her at all. I don't know if we'll get her again this season, but at least we got her for this.
Right.
And but I tell you, it was so poignant to me when he was going through his memorabilia, trying to say, I'm in the present, but she's trying to tell him, you have to consider the past as well.
Right.
And doing this after he looked briefly at his Resican flute from the Inner Light.
Yes.
To me, that was a very poignant moment, as well as the Enterprise painting, of course, that he wants to ship off to Geordi.
Classic.
I was looking for the fish.
Yes, where's Livingston?
Which are probably long dead at this point, but
I'm sure. Well, if they were real fish.
I'm sure Livingston survived the crash landing in Enterprise D, Craig.
Was that his name, Livingston?
Yes, it is.
Fire my fish, Livingston. Here's some flakes for you, Livingston. Enjoy those. Let's talk about the normal. When you tell a story, a Star Trek story usually does start with some really meanwhile, some really tense thing is happening, and now normal life. And normal life is Picard and Laris. I guess their boyfriend, girlfriend, maybe fiance. I don't know. They're packing up because she is doing. Let's see. She's doing security consulting.
Yes,
for Romulan meetings and stuff.
Right.
That's interesting. And she does mention that she is. Am I right about this? Tal Shiar. She's ex Tal Shiar.
I don't know if she was ever Tal Shiar, but she was basically involved in Romulan intelligence.
yes,
Right.
That's
And
what
she
she
does.
said.
Yeah, she does mention that, which is cool. So she gets it. She gets all of this.
There's a Tal Shiar callback when Raffi was going through some information about the Red Lady the first time. I think that's what you're thinking of. But yeah, she says I'm part of Romulan intelligence. It was a nice scene. She's comfortable. They're sitting there, they're talking.
Yeah.
It was well
Yeah.
handled. I even thought the communicator scene when he gets the message coming in was actually done well. I was like, oh, that's kind of cool. And the way he kind of looks at it, oh wow, bringing back memories, and then it's there you go. I like the fact that the pacing, that's what word I was struggling for, was a lot better than I felt it's been other episodes of Picard. That's for sure.
Good point. Good point. Yeah, one of the things now, maybe I'm off base on this because I haven't watched season 2 since last year. It seems like there's a lot more close camera shots in this one. That it's more intimate and it's more sort of gentle in its presence, the camera.
Right.
As opposed to, I felt like a lot of season 2 and maybe even a lot of season 1 was like a big wide shot. Action happening.
Different director, different style.
Yeah.
Well, different story, different characters, and different approach. It hadn't occurred to me, John. I think you make an excellent point there. I think you're absolutely right that we are definitely getting that vibe here as far as intimacy and close-ups and so forth.
And speaking of that, what did you folks think of Riker in that context and in general? Because he's problems at home, right?
Clearly
does mention that.
Clearly at home, and the humor was more. It was more the old acerbic Riker bit of old, like when they had the Enterprise Ds and they had the big fat models there, and he says nobody likes the fat ones.
That's gouging across you, young lady.
That was one of the best gags of the whole thing.
It was hilarious.
How many? Why are there so many Enterprise Ds? Oh, no one likes the fat ones.
You know what? And based on that, Craig, I'm gonna suggest a weekly feature of our show. Let's agree on a MVP as far as the next generation character each episode. And I would have to say that as important as Crusher is obviously here, I'm gonna have to give that award personally to Riker. I think he was the standout TNG character this week.
That's first of all, great idea, and I agree. He brought the show together, and it was the old Riker wit, but older. Even when there was a callback really to Lower Decks, when they're stuck in the Lower Decks chambers, and he says, this is a lot old. I forgot what the line was now, but it was like basically it was a lot easier when I was a cadet. He's just stuck on the top.
And I didn't have to get up to go to the bathroom so much.
Didn't have to pee so much.
God, I just love it.
I love it.
And it's great to know that, and we know we're in the 25th century because we had that great intro line at the very beginning in the 25th century, a la Star Trek 2. So we know we're there for sure. And despite this, it's great to know that phrases like old fart still exist in the 25th century.
I like that because there's one
I love
scene
it.
where they have to go in, further on in the episode for battle, and Riker says, "Yeah, I don't know if my knees are going." Picard says, "I don't know if I'm going to get tired," and Picard says, "I don't know if my knees are going to give out for this."
Right. It's like your hands are your hands aren't working great. My knees aren't. My back's killing me.
That was so. I'm just reiterating what you said, Joe. And
Honestly,
guys,
I mean,
I, that was good. That was good sense of comic timing. I thought it really brought a smile to my face.
he was so funny.
Yeah.
Frakes is crushing it, if you will. Frakes is so funny in this first episode, and that was Frakes. Riker. I gotta say Riker. I love Frakes. And I gotta say, when I used to watch The Next Generation, which of course is the title of this episode,
Yes.
also very cool. But when I used to watch it, Frakes was my least favorite character.
Oh,
for the
I
longest
used to
time.
Well,
call
he
him.
was stiff and unyielding and cranky, and
I used to call him Ronnie Boy clone back in the day. Yes, I'm dating myself, but yes.
I mean, the thing about the casting on The Next Generation was they would cast people who were from soap operas, and that was Frakes' story. Like, he was actually married to the girl who played Laura on General Hospital.
Yeah, Jeannie Francis.
Nice. Damn, you guys.
Well, and he had come right off of what's it called, North and South? It was some kind of Civil War drama based on a novel.
One of those,
which was very soap opera like.
Yes. I always, it always was so funny to me that they'd have like this 80s hair, the feathered like part down the middle, which is very similar to what I'm wearing now. So who am I to complain? Let's get back on.
Seven of 9 as the first officer of the Titan.
Yes.
I liked her. I thought it was nice to see her wearing the uniform. Finally, my God, how long did it take?
Yeah.
And man, and she, boy, I hope she keeps her command. But
because that was the thing, at the end of season 2, there was sort of this happy ending of 7 of 9 returning from being a ranger, returning to Starfleet.
Right.
Which of course is going to be an issue. It's always going to be an issue because she is a former Borg, and it just doesn't get a bigger enemy of Starfleet than the Borg. Actually, bigger enemy of humanity than the Borg. And we settled so much of that in season 2 that it just seemed like, oh, it's okay now, but it's not.
It's not. And I think we can look forward to, I'm not going to go so far to call it a redemption for Captain Shaw, but there clearly is an issue there. And with the person that has to identify herself as Commander Hansen, she can't use her preferred name. That speaks a little bit to some contemporary issues, I think. I think we're going to see her reservations about being in Starfleet resolved to some extent over the course of his character evolution as well.
That is a bold prediction because, on the other hand, he could simply be a bad guy.
That's true.
That's true.
I'm going to throw that out there. I hope you're right, both of you. I hope you're right. But he is such. Now, this actor, I have this actor's name somewhere. Oh my God, this guy plays the biggest jerks. Todd Stashwick.
He even sounds like a jerk.
Todd.
It's like being born Dick McDick. And he's been on many, many shows and has done comedy and is, it's so funny. I really feel like Todd has kind of come into his own as an actor in this role. So I hope you're right. I hope he is a big part of this season.
And one aside,
it is a bold prediction, as you say, because it also reminds me that when they first showed him on camera, very arrogantly eating his steak with his steak sauce and stuff, and didn't even wait for him to arrive. I just had this vision going back to Star Trek 3 of Excelsior Captain Esteban filing his
Yes,
nails.
yes,
you know.
exactly. There's just sort of like, oh, so rude to eat that report. That's just like, dude. Of course, but not as rude as poor Crash LaForge.
Oh my God! Where did
Smiling
I have that
ensign?
in my notes?
That face. She has this big smile on her face, which is now permanently frozen. Like, I can't believe I'm talking. That's what I get to talking to friends of my dad.
Oh my God, that was so brutal, and a great way of showing that Riker is a little he's a little indelicate.
Yes.
And then for him to say, well, actually, my daughter and my wife were happy to get rid of me right now. Like, they asked me to leave.
But did you notice that his indelicacies tend to be in conjunction with his defending Picard?
That makes a lot of sense. That makes
One time Seven
big
says something a little rude, and he says, "No,
yes.
Be careful there, Commander," and so forth.
Which is classic Riker for me too. Which is, what does that mean, Mister? There's a lot of John Wayne there. There's a lot of swaggering American, and let's not forget Frakes is like 6'5" or something, 6'5" or 6'4". He's bigger than everybody. He towers over everybody.
And yes, of course, I also have to mention real quick that I did enjoy the callback to of Sidney LaForge back to Demora Sulu. When she took over basically what her dad used to do on a previous vessel.
That's right. That's right. And so having a Sulu on the bridge and having a LaForge on the bridge. Exactly. I love that stuff. Let's see if we missed anything up to this point. I doubt cut everybody off years ago. How long has it been in their years? Has it been 30 plus? Has it been 40? We know.
We're getting a little ion interference with you right now, Captain, but if I understand
I think it has. Wow, I felt my connection was getting funky. I think it was, they said over 20-year-old, because he's mentioned the comm badge. It's my over 20-year-old comm badge. It's the comment that I heard. Something like that.
That's what they said, but if you do the math, if assuming that real-time years are roughly equivalent to Star Trek years, it's been closer to 30, I think.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think it's which is interesting, because as a tendency, as an older man myself, you have a tendency to say, "Oh, I was 20 years." Like, no, that was 30 years ago. Like, oh yeah, you're right.
As a matter of fact, since we're briefly on the topic of the actual time passage, and I think John's working on getting back with us completely. I did a little bit of math myself, and let's see how. Oh, there you go. So it'll be just you and me, Craig, for a minute. But in terms of the mysterious son of Beverly Crusher at the end,
yes,
I looked up the actor on IMDb. Maybe you did too. And he was born in 1988, which, again, if the years line up, would coincide with Beverly not being on the Enterprise for that second season of TNG.
Well done. Yeah, you're right. That's right, because we had Dr. Pulaski instead. That's 1988. My God, that was a long time ago. But yes,
a long time ago. So the actor was born in 88, and that would be the same time. So is it John Lukes? I was telling John yesterday in our preview that I was kind of hoping not, because it seems kind of, Kirk and David Marcus like.
Right.
But then again, I mean, we got a guy who's speaking in a British accent and the age lines up.
Right.
So it's a possibility, and they can make it work. We'll see.
Yeah.
Could be somebody else entirely, but I find it interesting that it seems to coincide with that that second year of TNG when she was not there.
That's a great observation too. And also there's if you add that to the 20-year, what they call the 20-year, they haven't spoken in 20 years, which
20 plus,
it's more like, as you keep pointing out, a little longer than that. But that's cool. That makes some sense there. How old he is. And it's weird because, why did she lock him out in the beginning of that episode like that? Because I thought it was like some sort of weird, like, I thought it was, oh my God, is this an illegal clone of Picard or something like that. Thinking in Alan Nemesis type of thing.
Well, I thought at first he was one of the attackers. It moved so quickly and it's at the beginning, but I guess my interpretation is at the end that she was trying to protect him somehow.
Right.
Although he's the one that had to put her into the little pod. So
yeah,
I guess we'll have to see a little bit more of the mystery unfold to know for sure.
Yeah, I thought it was really interesting. But that was a good point. So I'm telling you, the Riker really pulled in for me. I liked Patrick Stewart's performance overall. I think he's doing a good job there. And I like the fact that they're being pursued by something that's not quite, the Borg or Q's cousins.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I'm hoping that Vadic, who we, I think it's pretty clear with it. That was her ship we saw at the very end. The Shrike, I believe, is the name of the vessel. So that's we're going to see her entrance next week, I'm sure. I hope there's more to her than meets the eye. When I see in the trailers, like, we will have vengeance. I go, oh, here we go again. I hope there's something a little bit more to it than that. I'm confident that there will be.
Sorry, I'm juggling 5 things at once at the same time. But yeah,
no problem.
Yeah, I'm hoping, I really am. I really am hoping that it's a slow burn villain. The fact that we saw Dr. Moriarty pop up in the pre-trailer, right?
Yes.
It'd be interesting to see where he fits. Is he as a result of something the bad people are doing, or is he part of the greater plan? And then, as you guys were talking about in your previous shows today, what's with the woman who looks like Zorg?
Yeah. John, how are you doing, Captain? Are you with us?
Can you hear me now?
Right. I did see the preview. Yes.
Oh shoot!
I think we can see.
Well, we can see your little back and forth, but say something to us and see how you sound.
Mr. Townsend, Mr. Lubin, thank you for filling in for me. Anything?
I think we're pretty good for right now. You're very welcome. We probably touched on a couple points we definitely wanted to include you in, but
yes.
But hey, go and watch it back, John.
I heard some stuff.
Oh, you did good. Okay, good.
I heard great stuff as I basically I had to go do a hard reboot on the router there.
On the router, yeah.
And hooked up with I hooked the Ethernet cable. I should have done that before the show anyway. Had an Ethernet cable running.
Hey, I'm just glad it's not me tiling out.
Yeah, the girls are watching.
Mr. Townsend is using a nice fresh.
Yes, we got a new router on this end, so we're pretty good for now.
Nice.
But let me mention real quick, if I may, because I want to make sure this gets in. But as I said before, I mean, we're going to get lots of fan service. I think it's going to be handled well. Sometimes in season 2 of Picard, it was sometimes a little bit in your face, but it was still fun.
Yeah.
I think most of this is going to serve the plot very well. And I got to tell you, my favorite bit of fan service this week has to be the Red Lady herself, Captain Rachel Garrett, Enterprise C.
Yeah. Yes. Isn't that cool?
That was very cool. I mean, never would have thought about that. Of course, she has her place in history, and the fact that she's having a statue dedicated for Founders Day, which sadly will have to be rebuilt now, apparently.
Wow. Yeah. I mean,
that was a great use of that. And again, the fact that it was a short mystery that resolved in a satisfying way in the first episode is a big plus as well.
Like I said, I enjoy the whole sequence. I thought the use of the weapon, just from a nerdy perspective, was interesting. The delayed portal. I don't know if you guys ever played the video game Portal, but it reminded me of that too.
Yes.
And was horrible because it was done at scale, meaning it moved in the right frame rate for that distance and that speed. And you guys noticed the sound design. You could hear people screaming and running in panic twice when it collapsed, and then when it came back down when it dropped, which reminds me of a scene of one of the dumber movies out there.
Oh no.
Let's get that movie.
Remember.
A scene from where, Craig?
Independence Day Resurgence, when they pick up London and they drop it on Tokyo.
I forgot all about that. Holy cow.
Everyone forgot about that movie. The reason I remember that is, we saw it when we were very sober. For some reason, that one scene stuck in everybody's head. I can't tell you what happened in the movie. Oh, and Brent Spiner was in it.
Yes.
Oh yeah,
He had a much bigger role in the sequel.
He seemed to be the only one in that movie. He was in a funnier movie. I know this says one scene he's just walking. All this stupidity is happening. He's walking in a medical frock, and he turns around and he goes, "How come nobody told me my ass has been hanging out the whole time?" The rest of the movie is garbage.
I honestly think there needs to be a big there needs to be one of these peace conferences where we all get together from all the various planets, all the fans of Star Trek, and we need to have one of these big peace conference talks about what are we going to do about Brent Spiner. We got to give him a good job. Like, I remember watching the little clip from one of these discussions of season 3 of Picard, and there's Spiner going, "Why don't I get my own series? What? Look, you get all the characters I play. I wouldn't have to play the same guy, from episode to episode. Where's my series?" And then it cuts to LeVar Burton going, "You get a series, and you get a series, and you." But I'm like, wait a minute. Brent brings up a point here. What works for Brent? What is going on for Brent here? We know that at least Geordie LaForge thinks that he's showing up as Lore, and I personally think that Lore is being brought.
Well, actually, there was a line of dialogue here that I think supports that. After all, in that there was something stolen in addition to the weapon from the Daystrom outlet.
Yeah, I was picking on that too. That I caught that too, Joe. Because it wasn't just weapons; something else was stolen of value, right? They were, and it looked. She seemed distressed about it when she was talking about it.
So, because I commented yesterday in the preview that, well, why would Girardi take Picard in season 1 to go see B4 and not Lore? Well, Lore apparently might have been in a more secure location elsewhere.
And Joe, I'll go even further. I think it wasn't just the only thing of value. It might have been Moriarty's little box too.
Yeah.
Oh, that makes some sense as well.
Just my guess too. But yeah, I was thinking the same thing.
I think it's a viable. The only thing I speculated on yesterday, in addition to that, was that I have heard, and this could be totally false. So if it is, your suggestion clearly makes the most sense as far as the little holodeck box thing, the cube. But I'd heard that we were going to, in some fashion, physically revisit the Enterprise D, a portion of it. Where it sits in a museum or whatever they recovered from the planet. In one of the novels, I can't remember. There's been so many, there's so much extra stuff out there on the Star Trek lore. There's a whole thing where they do recover it, and they do bring it. I don't know if they bring it back to Earth or something, but they do make it into a museum. They do recover the saucer section from the planet.
That makes sense.
It would have to come from something in the, either that star or the one you suggest, Craig, and from Daystrom, because that would make sense. Well, that would be the type of technology you'd probably have there.
Yeah.
And as far as Moriarty goes, we don't know if he's going to be a one-off or if he'll have a bigger impact on the overall story. But
it's a lot of potential for the Moriarty boxes. Think about it. No one knows really what it is, and if someone hooks it up, let's say it's the bad guys or another protagonist in the series, hooks it up to their ship, well, they're gonna fuck.
That was amazing.
Okay,
that's an amazing suggestion.
Baseless Townsville prediction of the first one of the season. The whole Picard series takes place in the little cube.
Oh.
Rioting
in the streets, pitchforks and torches. Yeah. I would be leading that charge.
As would
Bobby Ewing gets out of the shower and he's still alive.
I will offer to you, gentlemen, a Townsville tidbit. I had to do a freeze screen to see it on a bigger monitor, but the revelation of the Red Lady being Rachel Garrett was not that hard to spot because it was clearly front and center with her name in big letters.
Yeah.
Craig, did you notice on the monitors on either side On the right was a shot of the Enterprise F, which
Oh,
we've been led to believe is going to be decommissioned during this series, which we haven't even met it yet, and it's already on its last legs apparently. And this is a possible tidbit. On the left monitor, looked to be maybe an A version of the Intrepid class, i.e. Voyager.
oh. And I'm
Look
gonna,
very
you know, I'm gonna
similar,
go
but
back.
just a little bit different.
I'm gonna go back and look at that when because I went that last part, last part of the series, I was watching it, while in another meeting, so I wasn't paying as much attention as I did at the beginning. But I will check that out.
Its validation would be great. So yeah, see if you agree.
Was there an explanation at any point of what Frontier Day is? Was I just too
Different Cochrane
stoned?
Day.
Yeah, right. And it was explained on Lower Decks. There's a whole Lower Decks episode that talks about was it Lower Decks? Yeah, it was. I'm pretty sure that had the Frontier Day thing going on. Yeah,
I'm not sure it was explained there for the first time, but I think we saw it previously, but it was definitely in Lower Decks.
Yeah.
But that is April 4th.
Yeah, I forgot what it was. Yeah, but they're like, they had the different badges of different ships and all that stuff too. And
I
love it. Yeah. So yeah, it's a Federation holiday. So it wasn't the first time. I mean, there were two Lower Decks. It was that and the fact they literally were in the decks they're having Lower Decks. So that had me on the floor.
It killed me to see them in those bunk beds. That of course this evil captain, this Dick McDick captain, put them in. Oh, that was nuts.
And the thing about those, they're basically there's a hallway. They're like midshipman decks you'd see on a destroyer aircraft carrier. They're just bunks up against the wall, right?
I always loved that because honestly, the no poverty existence of of life in the 25th century, sure, that makes a lot of sense. But the military is all about working you up. They knock you down, and then you got to work your way back up. So you start sleeping in a hallway, in a bunk bed, usually three beds.
That does make sense, and especially from a military perspective. But there's no scarcity. You can go down the street and use the bathroom and get food. You just have to share, a communal replicator, I'm assuming. But you can get your sonic shower down there. You have all the creature comforts there for you. Yeah. So you wouldn't in the normal military, but in society in general.
Yes. Yeah. And that that's very futuristic. That's very Gene Roddenberry. I love all that stuff. Gene Roddenberry, of course, a Navy man, so he very much saw the Federation as being based on the Navy. I've always loved that.
An intelligence officer, Raffi, at one point says, "I'm going to need more money," which was interesting because that once again shows you how the cashless Federation doesn't really work when you're in District 6 or wherever she was. District 6 is where she was.
Let's stop and have that conversation because I've seen that conversation had in many Facebook groups and usually not had by people as smart as Craig Lubin and Joe Townsend. Because there's always that, how come there be latinum when there everything not be scarcity? Like, dude, the freaking Ferengis are the greatest example of the opposite of the post-scarcity Federation world.
Well, as they're intended to be, of course.
Yeah, they're supposed to be the ultimate capitalists in a way, to where everything is for sale. And as a matter of fact, I'm gonna get a lot of hate just for even mentioning this, but the last season of Orville describes the Federation economy, where it could be, better than I've ever heard it on Star Trek, because they say it's a matter of reputation. People, everything is free, and you could sit, you can sit and say, hey, for my career, I'm gonna, play with this wall and paint the rest of my life, and they'd be like, okay,
right,
whatever.
Right, like you could be an artist, you can be a scientist that specializes in that plant that looks like a hand.
Right.
From TOS.
And I remember watching even the 2009 Star Trek with my wife. She picked up on that when Kirk, when he decides to join Starfleet after being beaten up the night before in a drunken ball, he just walks on, gives the bike to that guy, and this gets on. There's no payment. He's not, I know it's a military organization, but he seems to be able to do whatever you want. And
Right.
and they imply it's a matter of taking exams. Once again, we have to be careful here because that is pretty much the way it is for our society too as well. Well, not us, we're beyond the recruitment age.
Right.
But if we were, we could go down a recruitment office and take a couple exams for the Army, Navy, Marines, or Air Force, and have everything paid for.
Yeah.
But they never really explain how is it for the people who go the non, Starfleet route. Can you take an exam and just for free go to Harvard University to become a marine biologist? I don't know.
That's not clear, but it's in a general sense though. The thing that comes to mind is Jean-Luc explained to Lily in First Contact, says that, this is a paraphrase, but he tells her that the economics of the future are different. We no longer strive to obtain material things, but to better ourselves in our chosen field, more or less.
Interesting.
Still vague, but very, very.
That's a great point, Joe. I forgot about that. But yeah, he does call that out specifically. And when in contrast to the end of the 21st century.
Now that economy is very dependent upon who owns the replicators.
Yes.
And the teleporter technology, right? Because that changes matter to other matter.
Well,
that's a big part of it for sure.
We could go on. I think we could get a whole thesis on this. If you could make anything you wanted, right? Scarcity is gone. If you could turn a rock into food, right, or vice versa, you're constrained by matter. And there are a couple of science fiction books. I'm a big nerd here. I remember Neil Stephenson, something called The Diamond Age. In this future, everybody had access to matter stream, right? So they had 3D printers, but like Star Trek level. They acted like replicators. So you could replicate a chair, whatever. However, the amount of matter you got to your household, that was your wealth. So the rich people could replicate a whole island, right? If they wanted to. Yes. People like you and I were lucky we could replicate, a sandwich.
Right.
Hey, so I just always said since about 1987 or 88 that if I had a holodeck, I'd never come off the thing. I'd be Barclay. Why would you?
Dave Barry has a chapter in one of his books from the 90s where he says it's called The Holodeck, Mankind's Last Creation. And it goes into the whole thing of every depraved way you could think of why this.
Right. That's it. What else would you need? That's it.
Now, I did get inspiration during this episode to write my own Star Trek episode or story. And that is the following. If I could do that, I could name a planet after myself like Terry Metalis did.
Oh, let's talk about Metalis Prime. Oh my God. And of course, he is the writer on this episode. Do we allow it? Joe Townsell, will you allow Metalis Prime to exist? It's named after the gosh darn writer of the episode. Is that okay with you?
Well, I think I just answered that question. Of course. I mean, if I had the ability, I'd certainly have a Townsell Prime or something. I'd like maybe leave out the L, like T apostrophe Ounsel,
I'll make it sound a little Klingon-y. I'll just put an apostrophe
something alien.
in there. Craig Lubin, do you allow it? Judge Lubin.
Sure. Why not? With that level of technology, give it a shot.
Yes.
What could go wrong?
Well, plus it works as a planet name.
Yes.
With a slightly different spelling. I mean, although all three of us, Lubin Prime, Weber Prime, I don't see any problem there either. So,
hey, in Legion of Superheroes in DC, there is a Weber's World.
Oh my God! Now you're dating yourself and really getting down minutia, and the fact that I know that makes me want to hurt myself.
Although I kind of think that in John's case, it would have to be like something like Weber Prime thingy, something like.
I just love the idea that there's a Prime as if there's other Metalises. Like, well, that's Prime. That's the first Metalis. Let's see some of the other things I wanted to get your guys' reactions to. Okay, now granted, this is when Rafi. Now we know Rafi is still fighting demons. She's not a full-blown junkie, as we find out. Oh, okay. Metallis Prime, Rafi's a full-blown junkie. She's talking to an Orion. She's trying to get information and drugs. And he's treating her like garbage, and she's very pathetic. And then we find out later she was totally faking it. She's not a junkie, but she still looks at the drugs that she bought from the guy, and she still has a like.
It's hard for her to drop it, isn't it?
Yeah. She had that longing look. But I like the fact that she's still she was an addict, and addicts always have to struggle.
Well, that's true.
That was it's not like, but she was able to deal with it. But yeah, she's in the proximity of the.
Yeah.
And also,
that is the nature
one line of dialogue that we haven't touched yet in that exchange is it just part of the story, or is it based on truth, or both? Simple line: my girlfriend left me. So what happened between the two of them? I'm sure we'll find out.
Yeah, and it'll be, well, I woke up and you weren't there. Well, how could I be there when you were never there to begin with? which brings me to another line that made me almost want to rage quit the show.
Oh, no.
Because I know people who say things like this. You have no idea how hard it is to be in this world. Now, Craig, you're raising daughters. I have 3 sisters, all younger. Do we need this in our heart?
This is something more that my sister would say than my daughter. Thank God.
Thank God. Thank God. God bless.
But I got the impression she didn't mean it in the way that I know what you're getting at. I thought she meant the world of her past. That's what I interpreted it as. But if she meant it in the general sense, yes, I was ready to gag myself with a spoon, as they say. But I took it as the former rather than the latter. Because I got the impression she says, "Oh, I'm back in the place that made me an addict."
Yes.
And I really can't handle it. The proximity. But
okay.
Yes. But at first I'm like, did she mean it in the general? I can't. I know where you're coming from. No, I think I'm okay. I hope she meant it I'm in the place where my addiction first manifested itself. This is not healthy for me.
Right.
In that sense, that world, yeah.
Right. As opposed to poor me.
Yes.
Which granted, it is just because I'm an old man and I've seen so much of this, but there's 2 kinds of hero in the Jungian archetype of hero. There's the conquering hero and there's the suffering hero. And a lot of people relate more to one than the other. And us Captain Kirk guys, conquering hero. But the, oh, poor Rafi. Like, oh, you know how I hate that stuff. I have hated that stuff forever. And there are a lot of fans of it. So I'm not a big fan of that. I think you're right, Craig. I think that's what she was saying.
I think if what we saw in Rafi this episode and the setup and the contribution to the overall story, I think is good so far. I think if that gets resolved pretty quickly, maybe even by next episode, it'd be worthwhile. If it gets strung out, so to speak.
Yeah.
For several episodes.
Damn.
That might be a little bit weak. But yeah. I'm hopeful and optimistic that it serves a purpose, and it'll be, once that purpose is served, it'll be gone.
I mean, this is the thing that bothers me about Rafi. It's bothered me about Rafi from the first 2 minutes that she was introduced, where she is this self-pitying, self-loathing, character that we have not seen in Star Trek before. A character allowed to feel sorry for themselves to such a degree. And yeah, okay, that's the character, but oh my God, does this have to be in Star Trek?
Not necessarily, but
other shows.
But again, as far as being optimistic, I will contribute this. In season 1, her son didn't want nothing to do with his addict mama. Get away. No.
Right.
Now, apparently, I'm guessing she must have some kind of a relationship with him, since she's being provided images of her granddaughter.
Yeah.
You know what I assumed? when she was watching the images of her granddaughter that she had used the spy technology at her fingertips to get those images, that's not allowed, that was a forbidden image.
That's a good way of looking at it.
That's something not occurred to me. And that's actually be a little bit more interesting as far as the plot.
I mean, we don't know how much moving forward she has done.
There's a lot of really good tidbits and groundwork here. I'm telling you, they're and the fact that we can interpret it in different ways. It was, like I said, it was a good start. Certainly the best start in Picard to date. Let's compare it to season 1.
Oh, I think that goes without.
Absolutely,
indisputable.
Absolutely, yes.
We're not going to get to next week. I'm assuming, and take a hard left into the 21st century or something like that.
I'm going to lose it. Right? All of a sudden, it's like like Picard season 1 and 2, the worst of.
Dude, I mean, in the preview, you hear Jean-Luc Picard say, "The final frontier is time." And I'm like, oh, but we did time travel last season. Do we have to do it again? And I don't know what that meant. Maybe he means confronting things from the past, which is very much.
I'm sure that's what it must be.
I hope it's that. I'm hoping it's that. And gents, unfortunately, because I don't know what it is about today too. I've been being pinged by people, my work, to talk to them. So,
okay. Any last tidbits you want to toss out, Craig, and then we'll say goodbye to you.
I'm looking forward to the big reveal, because I hope it's not your laughing, twirling villain. I'm curious about what's going on with Crusher and going on too. That seems to be driving things too. And I'm also hoping that, as Joe mentioned out, that when we see all the TNG characters, regardless of that aspect of it, the villain, that they're just as entertaining. I hope we get the best Geordi possible, we get the best Worf possible, and we get the best lore possible.
Yes, yes. I love me some lore. Oh, shoot! Unfortunately, Craig, you froze up again.
Oh, shoot!
Yeah, the universe is telling me to go 10 to Mike.
The universe is kicking you out of the bar.
All right, gents.
We will see you soon, Craig. Thank you so much for your insights.
Yeah, next week should be free of pain. All right.
Hopefully.
Okay.
Hopefully. All right, man.
Bye.
We'll see you. All right. Yes. Hopefully we get Craig again next week. He's very busy this week, and of course, on the East Coast where Craig is, people are still working. Where Joe and I are.
We're just sitting around talking Trek.
We just talk Trek.
Well, John, what are some of your remaining thoughts?
I was really interested from the very moment I saw it, where the first time Beverly picks up a weapon in this episode, she can't hit anything. And I'm just like, can't hit a barn crusher. Beverly, no look, shooty shoot crusher. Like, doing such a bad job at firing at these pirates, assassins, whoever these guys who have boarded her. Yeah. And then she manages to get another weapon. She does kill one of them and dissolves him. And then she does shoot a guy, and then she shoots him again and disintegrates him. And later, when Riker and Picard are on the ship looking at the scene, is that a Picard line where he says, "That doesn't sound like the Beverly I knew"?
That would be him.
Because basically she did, as they say in the zombie movies, she did the double tap.
Mm-hmm.
She shot him, but then she really shot him. And I was wondering about that. I was wondering what the deal was with how she was killing them, because she was killing them.
Beverly, she can defend herself when needed, and Picard recognized that as well. It's a defensive exercise. I mean, her weapon is interesting. It's almost like, if there is such a thing, a phaser shotgun that has an action like this, which leaves residue after disintegrating somebody. But
Wow.
the overall impression I'm getting of Crusher thus far is that she went beyond Federation space for all good intentions. She's kind of a doctor without borders,
Yeah.
using
Right.
her time now to help others that won't necessarily get it through conventional channels,
Right.
but has now found herself in position of having to fight off these invaders for whatever
Well,
reason.
Right. And as you and Craig were discussing while I was plugging up the leaks in my ship here, that this other son,
Mm-hmm.
I have him in my notes as Dollar Tree Taron Edgerton. Because he does. He looks just like Taron Edgerton. And he's English. I was really taken by that because I mean, A, why couldn't she have another kid after
Sure.
Wesley? B, Wesley is older, but there was that year where she was gone away.
Mm-hmm.
I would love if that was all integrated. Like, she went away.
Picard may have knocked her up during the Naked Now for all we know. I mean, they were all loosey-goosey.
Remember those super soldiers? And she would like fell for that one who looked so much like Bob Geldof.
Yes.
Like half super soldier. Although I think they were, I think they were made sterile. Those super soldiers.
No, I got to discount that. But it does raise the question, though. And of course, again, we're going to have to get answers, obviously. But
yeah,
did she feel that she couldn't bring him aboard a starship, the baby, that was designed for family, residency? I don't know.
That's a very good question. I mean, maybe his dad's evil. That would make sense, even though that's not our big villain. Our big villain is played by Amanda Plummer. So I shouldn't know that as a fan, but I do. So I can't guess there. But that might be everything I have in my notes. Anything you have stray in your notes, Mr.
Well, since we took notes and we've already shown them off, we might as well refer to them, huh? All I can really add to that is, just some other touches of the episode. I did find it very moving that they dedicated it, the episode to the actress who played the Borg Queen last season, Annie. And I'm sorry, I should have written down her last name, but we all know who we're talking about.
Yes. She was exquisite.
Yes.
The fact that she just passed away was heartbreaking. This woman was so young.
45 years and passing away from cancer. So that's the definition of tragedy, I think.
Absolutely. And I loved the original Borg Queen, Alice Krieg, as well.
Yes.
But this gal was fantastic.
I think the only other thing I have in my notes that we didn't touch on is that I did somehow acquire next week's episode title. Now, let me mention that real quick.
Oh, good.
This may seem silly.
Yeah.
I love the fact that finally in new Trek live action, we're displaying the episode title at the beginning.
Oh my gosh.
Great?
Oh my gosh. We haven't been doing that, have we?
Not through the years of Discovery, or I don't think they even do it in Strange New Worlds, which lends itself to it. I guess going back to our era of Star Trek, I want to see that title.
Yes, I always loved those title pages.
I guess because they thought the serialized storytelling didn't lend itself to it, but they have titles. They're there.
They do.
So next week, our title is Disengage. That's the name of next week's episode.
That's good. Good.
Based on what we've seen, that could mean a lot of things.
I wonder if I can find the exact piece of trivia. I loved that this one was named after a series.
Yeah.
So The Next Generation. It's happened 2 other times. Do you remember the other times that the name of a series was made the name of an episode?
Oh, wow. I'm not going to waste people's time like thinking about it because I'm drawing a blank. Could you please enlighten me, sir?
Well, of course, the first one, and you're gonna kick yourself over this one. Of course, the first one is Lower Decks.
Oh, of course, yes.
And there was a there was an episode called Lower Decks. Hang on. Oh, here it is. Good. I found it.
Oh yeah, I totally remember the episode. It just didn't click.
And there is yet another title of a Star Trek series that had originally been the name of an episode. You're gonna be bummed.
I mean, there's only been 7 or 8 series.
Yep. Strange New Worlds.
Well, that was in the narration. That wasn't the name of a series.
Well, let's see. The title of this episode, I'm reading directly off Memory Alpha.
Okay.
Which I love. The title of the episode, The Next Generation, marks the first time that an episode title is shared with the title of a previous series, Star Trek The Next Generation. Mm-hmm. Previously, TNG episode Lower Decks was an inspiration for the title of Star Trek Lower Decks, and Strange New Worlds launched the series of the same name.
There was no episode called Strange New Worlds. It was part of the narration
called Strange New Worlds.
No, it was part of Kirk's opening narration.
Yeah. Well, maybe that's what they're referring to.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I'm wrong.
A little bit of a stretch in that, but we'll give it to him. I'm glad he didn't come up. I'm glad he didn't come, on 2 blanks, just 1.
Right. Annie Warshing was the actress who played the Borg Queen in season 2 of Picard, and God rest her soul. She was fantastic.
And as far as just remaining things to admire about the how they made the episode, as far as the aesthetics and the approach, I like the just get right in there opening title.
Yeah.
Series title, episode title, loved it. And then we got all the nice fun to watch musical interludes at the end.
Yes.
For those that are interested, but otherwise we got right into it. And overall, like I say, I mean, I think we're just looking at we're going to be looking at an exceptional story. I don't want to build up my hopes too much. I don't want to build up anyone else's hopes too much either, but it sure looks promising. I think we're in for a great ride.
Also, to refer to something that happened earlier in this episode, which is going on to 90 minutes of pure fun.
That's what we're here for.
Why is there this nostalgic music playing during all this futuristic stuff? We find out that it's because Picard basically made Beverly a mixtape.
Yes.
He made her a playlist of old nostalgic songs, and that's why they appear, because it all came from Picard. I love that.
Well, and one of the big, I think that's a great point, John. And one of the things that we had heard mentioned a few times, why did Beverly cut herself off 20 plus years ago from everybody?
Yeah. Yeah.
It can't have much to do with her son, because he's older than this.
Right.
So there again, that's something we're looking forward to hearing more about. But clearly there's a soft spot in her heart for John Luke playing his mixtape. I mean, and who's the first person she goes to when she absolutely has no choice?
And they talk about that too. They talk about that connection, the deep connection. And we all know it's there. And someone at some point, is it 7, says, weren't you guys almost romantic? Weren't you almost
that would have been Laris, actually.
Oh, that was Laris who said that.
Yeah.
That's
the operative word is we tried.
We tried. And of course, all of us Next Generation fans are like, and we watched.
Yes. We're right there with you, buddy.
And thank you for telling it like it is, because you guys missed it many times.
Gaze McFadden in interviews has said that she considers this by far to be her best work and rendition of Dr. Crusher.
Yeah.
Now, when she said this some months ago, you thought, okay, well, that's very good PR stuff to put forth to the fans.
Of course.
But you know what? I'm starting to believe it based on what we've seen so far.
I'm with you.
I think we're going to see fleshing out of her character beyond what we ever saw in the previous 25 plus years.
And isn't it interesting that they're able to do that with Wesley Crusher not there?
Yes.
So one of the main, the space mom, as Will Wheaton says he always called her. Now that space mom does not have that son with her, What is her story, and
Mhm.
what is she doing, and what are we going to learn about her that we never knew? And look, I started acting in my mid-20s, and I was not great. I had lots of bad habits. I had lots of self-image about myself. Just very quickly, I came from comedy. So anytime I
Mhm.
got any work, I would try to do it the way a comedian does it. I would try to be
Sure.
funny. I would try to be sort of not quite connected, didn't have stakes, didn't have, a lot of fear of loss. Uh, the things that an actor does, did not tell the truth the way actors do through their work. And now at the grand old age of almost 60, uh, and acting quite a bit, I can tell you, I have rediscovered what the craft is. I have rediscovered what the job is. I tell the truth a lot. I put my heart out there a lot, and it's great. It's great
Mhm.
for me, and I think it's great for the people that see my work. And if that's what Gates is doing, and honestly, that's what I see her doing.
I totally agree. I mean, again, I'm at the cynical part of me think, okay, well, she's being a good actor and
Sure.
in sense of promoting the show when she makes a comment like that, but
Yeah.
it sure seems apparent that we're actually that's going to be delivered upon.
I I absolutely agree.
Yeah.
Let me just ask some ridiculously stupid questions.
I'll
Do
see if I can
you
give, I'll see if I can give you a stupid answer.
do you suitably stupid, please? Do you think we will see Denise Crosby?
We've been told we're going to see Denise Crosby, as you are, in some capacity.
And do we think we're going to see the time jumping backwards Crosby on from Enterprise C, which surely should not happen because that character was captured by the Romulans? Or do you think we will see her play her daughter, her Romulan daughter?
We have been told, excuse me. Well, we're not going to see her as Tasha Yar coming back from the past because she was killed in the past.
That's right.
As far as Sela, Terry Metalis has confirmed more than once she is not playing Sela.
That's good to hear.
Denise Crosby has said that we are going to see Yar. I'm guessing, I hope it's not too brief, but I'm guessing it's going to be a meaningful yet brief visit with her. Most obviously de-aged in some way because she never lived past a certain age.
Right.
Will it be just the revisiting of Data's little holodeck thing that he
that was my first guess. My first guess, like Data had that little like holographic statue of her where she's like, sort of fidgeting because she's like self-conscious. I always thought that was one of the most adorable things they ever did.
Yeah, I thought one of the big mistakes they made in Nemesis, I never frankly understood why they didn't use her in Nemesis as Sela.
Yeah, that's you never know. Sometimes it's the producers go, no, we don't want to go that way.
Mm-hmm.
We want to use hotter, younger chicks. Or sometimes it's like, we don't want to do that much fan service. That, of course, has happened all our lifetimes.
Yeah.
There were lots of things they could have brought back and lots of things they could have done over the decades that they did not do. They added new stuff to the canon, and that's fine. That's what people like. The one last question I wanted to ask you was, how much did it make your nerd heart sing that in those final closing credits, you finally get like that close to the panels?
Oh,
like the control panels for this and for that and for this thing and for that. Now, I didn't slow it down. I didn't write down which panels we were looking at. But to me, that's always been the nerdiest fans. And God bless them. They're what makes this show special.
Well, we're among them.
We are among them. I saw that and I thought, I had always wanted to know what these panels looked like up close. And they did that. That's crazy. So,
and there's probably, to answer your question, I mean, of course, I said, wow, this is great. Like I sat right there twice as I watched the episode twice. Is there significance to them? Do they provide hints? Possibly. Might be worth a third viewing of just the credits to see.
Yeah.
But if not that, then it just certainly just is an artistic and fun way to cap off the episode in the credits.
I mean, really getting you close, getting you up close and personal with more pieces of Star Trek, classic Star Trek. I thought that was terrific. And I kind of love how they're doing this. Strange New Worlds has really enlivened we're going to bring back parts of Trek that you loved. It's really, Discovery. I loved that it was cutting edge and everything was going to be so new and so fresh. And I still love that about Discovery, but this is just so, let's sink into the things that we really love about Star Trek and really enjoy it. And specifically Next Generation with this season. That sounds like a good place to wrap it up, Mr. Townsend.
I agree. As Craig said, we could write a thesis based on the premiere episode alone. So
yes,
let's save some for next time.
Absolutely. Mr. Townsend will tell the folks what they can find at joetownsend.com.
Well, thank you, Captain. At joetownsend.com, as always, you can find information and links to buy my 4 books. A 5th one on the way, has been for a while, I admit, but it's coming real soon. Of course, you can also find links to all of my webcast appearances with John and my other online friends, and more surprises to come. Please visit often.
All right, hang on. I'm going to just make sure that I have. Hey, you can find me at Starbase80 on Elon Musk's Twitter, or as some people call him, Elon Musk. God bless Elon Musk. I'll go over there and put something fresh up for you. And you can join us here Thursdays. That would be 5 p.m. on the East Coast, 2 p.m. on the Best Coast. Love you, my East Coast. I love you. I'm just teasing. Pacific, 2 p.m. Again, 5 p.m. Eastern. We will be rehashing the episode that debuted at midnight the night before on Paramount Plus of Picard.
Can't wait.
Season 3. Mr. Townsend, God bless you. We will see you next week.
God bless you too, Mr. Weber. I look forward to that.
And let's see. I think it's this one. There we go. Thank you so much for being with us. These are end credits. LLAP, baby. End credits from another show. I hope you'll
why not? They're all great shows.
Oh, yeah. This is what I always wanted people to imagine when they were imagining Starbase 80. I should have bagged out here.
Hey, what this serves as a hint of something else to come. I'll just leave it at that.
He is 1,000% right. Big thanks to Craig Lubin for being on this episode with us.
Thank you, Craig.
And my friends, we'll see you later. LLAP, baby.
Yep, here we go. Thumbs up.